Hey, what's going on everyone? It's Stranger and welcome to another YouTube music production video where my mission is to help you succeed in making music. So I just got my hands on the beta version of Ableton Live 11 and I'm loving the new features and you can expect it in 2021. Now there are tons of videos out there already showing you all the new features, so I'm not going to do that today. Instead, I'm going to show you my top 5 features that I would use in my personal workflow, especially for the music that we do, which is drum and bass music. Now, this is my first video for Ableton Live 11. However, I would like to do more in the future, exploring the new effects such as the hybrid reverb, as well as the spectral effects. But if you've had a chance to play with Live 11, or you've read or watched about the new features, comment down below and let me know what are your favorite new features to Live 11. Also, if you want to get more content like this, then make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and share buttons. All that helps my channel grow because it tells YouTube to send the video out to more people so my channel can grow so that I can keep providing you free content. Also, if you want to support me, you can grab one of my various products. You can grab one of my Ableton production kits on my Gumroad page, or you can pick up a hat or shirt on my online shop. And hey, follow me on TikTok and Instagram. I'm providing exclusive new content on those platforms. Alright, without further ado, let's check out Ableton Live 11. Alright, so here's Ableton Live 11, and one of the new features I like about this is the comp feature. Now, the comp feature is meant for recording multiple takes within a section of a track. But another way to use this is for sample manipulation. So I have an audio track here, and I'm just going to place an Amen loop here. And then let's stretch this to 2 bars. Now, if you right click on the audio track, you'll find a new function called Insert Take Lane. So this is how you manually add additional takes for a track. Now, I'm just going to add a couple in here. And the shortcut is Shift Alt and T. So I have 3 additional lanes here. And in these additional lanes, I'm going to place some additional Amen loops. So I'll put this in take 1. And then this will go in the next lane. And then I'll place this one here. Now, if you play the track, you'll only hear the top lane here. Now, to monitor the other lanes, just hit this speaker icon here, and then you can hear this lane. Now, let's say we like this section in this take here. Now, to print it into the main track, we just highlight the section and hit enter. Now, notice it's moved it on top here. So we can do this to the additional takes to chop up the Amen. So perhaps take this section here, hit enter. And here, maybe I'll take this section, highlight, hit enter, and then maybe we'll take this here. Maybe we'll take this one here too. So this is a really cool and neat way to rearrange and chop up breaks. Now I'm just going to clean up the sequence here. I actually like this section here for the snare. So I'm going to move this here and then I'll print it, hit enter. And maybe we'll stretch this guy here. We'll take this section here. Maybe like that. Print this one here. Alright, so we have a nice sequence here, and as you can see, all it takes is moving some parts around and then highlighting the section you want, hitting enter to print it onto the main track, and you have a pretty cool Amen layer. Now, one thing from what I understand is you can't mix lanes. There is only one gain control here, so if you need to adjust the individual layers, you'll have to go into the sample and then adjust the gain here. Now, if you adjust it, it won't actually be reflected on the main track. You're going to have to print it again. So let's say this snare section could be louder. So I'm going to bring the volume up. Notice it doesn't change on the main track, so you have to then print it again, and now the volume is up. All right, another feature that is related to comping is called linked track editing. Now this can work with audio as well as MIDI tracks. So I have a number of drum tracks here. So we have kick, snare, hi-hats, rides, and a sync break, and they're all in individual MIDI tracks. So here are the MIDI patterns on their own. And here's a think break. And I have a simple two-step pattern. The kick and snares are from the new Teddy Killers pack on Splice. So if you're interested, you can check it out. Not sponsored by them, but I like what they do, so big it up, Teddy Killers. Now, in the old Ableton, if I wanted to make a drum edit and keep everything in sync, I would have to edit all the clips individually, and that could become cumbersome. But what's neat about Ableton Live's linked track features is you can link the tracks together and edit it as one whole. So what you can do is you can highlight these tracks and then right click and then choose link tracks. So now when you move or edit one track, it moves it as a whole. So you can resize clips all together, or you can cut up the pattern and rearrange it. So I can take this section, highlight the kick, cut it, move the section here as a whole, copy this section, and then like this. And then maybe we want this section to have a double snare, so we can copy that. Maybe another one at the end. And I'm holding Control, click and drag it to copy. And notice it copies all 5 tracks. So this is a nice way to make drum edits without editing each track individually. Now you can link the tracks that are related, and then you can edit it as one whole piece. So let's listen to it with the Amen and 808 that we have. So the scale feature makes it really easy to write melodies, bass lines, and chords. This could help you find the right notes to construct melodies and bass lines without having much music theory. So I have a MIDI clip here for my bass track. And notice that the layout for the MIDI clip parameters have changed a little bit. Here you have the note parameters where you can duplicate, legato, half time, and double time. And here are your envelope functions, and here's the note expression. Now notice under the clip parameters here, there is now a scale button. So the way this works is you first need to specify the key to write in. So you do need a minimal understanding of music to use this. And I'm going to use the key of F, and then next to the drop down are all the different scales. So as a reminder, scales are simply a collection of notes that sound well together, and every scale has its own sound. Major sound more happy, minor sounds a little more moody, and then you have other interesting scales that may have kind of Egyptian or Arabic tone to it. Phrygian scales tend to have that kind of sound. There's also Japanese scales, Hungarian scales. So I encourage you guys to explore these scales and see how they would sound with your music. What I'm going to use is the Dorian number 4. Now, once you've selected the key and scale, hit the scale button here. And notice that on the key roll, it's folded, or it's hid all the notes that are unnecessary. And it shows only notes that belong to the Dorian number 4 scale in the key of F. So if we play F going up, so it has that kind of interesting tone to it. So we can use this and then write a bass line. Now I just have this UKG beat here, and I'm using this plugin called Beat Shaker UKG, which is a little Ableton instrument which allows you to write UKG rhythms with a click of a button. So they have 25 different UKG patterns here. And in this instrument, you can modify and customize the drum set to your liking. So you can change the kick, change the snare, change the hi-hat, and then maybe try a different pattern. So this is a really cool tool to help you get that UKG flavor with a few clicks to a button. If you're interested in grabbing this instrument, then I have a link down below where you can grab it. Now this instrument isn't specific to Ableton 11. It does work on Live 10 as well. I'm just using it today because it came in handy when I was doing this little example. I thought you guys may be interested in it. All right, so back to the bass line. So now that we have the key selected and we have a little beat to play with, we can simply find notes to write a bass line. So I'm going to start with the F note since we're in the F scale. And now I'm just going to simply write some notes and drag it around until I find a nice melody. So that works. And then we can move into another note in the second bar. So that sounds nice. And then we'll move on to the next note here. So simply by using this function, we can find a bass line really easily because we're not distracted by any notes that don't belong. We only see notes that belong to the scale, and it makes writing really easy. Alright, so now that we have the bass line written, let's use the scale feature to write some chords on top. So I just copied the bass clip over into this organ track here. So it becomes really easy to stack triad chords, knowing that it's every other note to write a triad. So one neat function with the scale feature is that you can move chords as well as groups of notes and transpose them while keeping them within the scale. In the old way, when you would transpose notes, it would transpose chromatically, meaning it would shift it, but then you might have notes that may not belong to that scale. But when you have the scale feature enabled and you move a chord or a group of notes, it retains the relative intervals within that scale so that everything is still in key. And I'm just going to add an additional layer on the bottom here to make it sound jazzier. And just gonna add a bit of flavor to these chords by adding some RC20. Alright, let's hear it all together with the bass and the beat. So pretty cool UKG flavors, and as you can see, you can simply type in notes and find bass lines and chords. So there's a couple browser updates that has made workflow better. The first one is simple. They've now grouped all the effects into categories, so it's more easy to find what you need. So for example, you have all the delay and loop effects here. You have all the EQ and filter effects here and whatnot. So this just makes it easier to access and find what you need. Another cool update to the browser is the templates section. So now you can save multiple templates based on genre or the process that you're doing. So for example, you can create a template for mastering and another template for mixing. Also, you can use this to make templates for different genres. So for example, you might want a specific number of tracks for drum and bass, including some bass and keys, and then you would go under the file menu and save the template, and we would now get a new template here, and then we could call it drum and bass. And you may have a completely different set of tracks for, let's say, a UK garage track, and you may even have some pre-made patterns that you want to have access to every time you start a UK garage track. So you can have that and then save that as a new template and call that UK garage. So this really helps with workflow, especially if you're working with different genres all the time or different vibes. Maybe you have a set for liquid and another set for rollers, where you have some go-to bass sounds that you use or some patterns that you want to use. So this really helps with your workflow. And all you would have to do is just double click on the template and it'll load up. It makes it really easy. Alright, so the update to macros is also very handy. So now you can have more than 8 macros. And you can also save macro parameters. So to view your additional macros, just hit this plus button to reveal additional macros. And design macros is the same way as before. Just right click on the parameter, and as you can see now, it comes with more than 8. You can choose number 13 all the way to 16. Now what's really handy is being able to save macro parameters. So to save new parameter settings, just hit this icon here to the left of the macros, and you can see I have 3 different macro settings saved. I have a wobble one. If you hit play, then it activates the settings for those macros. Now hit the drop bass one and the high wobble. So this is a great way to help you recall different macro settings. You might have different settings for one specific patch, and really allows you to recall different, for example, bass sounds like what I have here within the same track. So you can switch between a wobble and a drop bass with a click of a button. Now to save a new macro setting, just adjust your macros and then just hit new, and then you could rename it and call this new variation. So this is another really cool workflow feature. Alright, the final feature I'm going to highlight is the new master settings in the master track. So notice when you expand on the master track, you now have access to tempo and time signature for a specific scene. So this is really handy if you want to work on various tempos within a track, or maybe you're performing a live track and you want to switch between tempos. So this is really handy. So the way this works is you can click and drag the tempo up or down, or you can just hit the number and hit enter. And from here, I can switch between my UK garage and jungle track. Now, I'm not sure when you'll be in a situation where you're going to switch between UK garage and hard jungle, but maybe you have a deep dubstep track that can be played at 170 and 140 BPM as well. So this is a neat way to activate those tempos. So for example, I could duplicate this jungle scene, just highlight the scene, hit Control D, and this one maybe I'll play at 140. So you can play around with the ideas like that. So this is a really handy tool if you play live or you just want to jump between different ideas when you're jamming or composing. So this is handy. Alright, so some pretty neat features to Ableton Live 11, and I didn't expect Live 11 to come out so soon, so it's definitely a pleasant surprise. I'm looking forward to the full release. I think all the new features will help with workflow, especially the scales function as well as the comping. But let me know down in the comments, what do you think of Ableton Live 11? Will you upgrade or will you stick with 10? Alright, that's pretty much it for today, guys. Thanks for watching, keep practicing, and I'll see you at the next video.